is time for the hot topic of the hour. It was another busy day in Washington as President-elect Trump makes many more key cabinet appointments. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera is live in Washington this morning with all the details. Maddie.
Hi, good morning, Maria. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s nomination as Health and Human Services Secretary should come as no surprise. There were reports during the campaign trail that Kennedy could play a role in Trump's administration if he endorsed the former president, who is, of course, now the president-elect.
If you like health and if you like people that live a long time, it's the most important position. RFK Jr., Bobby. And I just looked at the news reports. People like you, Bobby. Don't get too popular, Bobby. We want you to come up with things and ideas and what you've been talking about for a long time. And I think you're going to do some unbelievable things.
Kennedy's priorities include overhauling food production to ban pesticides and genetically modified organisms, cracking down on food chemicals, and re-examining vaccine approvals. Several public health officials have raised alarm about his views on vaccination, which are likely to be scrutinized during the confirmation process. President-elect Trump also picked former Georgia Congressman Doug Collins as Secretary of Veterans Affairs, his defense lawyer Todd Blanche as Deputy Attorney General, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum as Interior Secretary. A formal announcement for Burgum is expected today. Some of Trump's choices, though, like Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, might face roadblocks in the Senate. Incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune said this when asked about the possibility of using recess appointments to bypass Senate approval for nominees.
I hate to say yes or no because I think that's still an open question. My view is we want to do this the regular way and see give the Democrats a chance to work with us on getting people in place.
There is one person who Trump says won't be serving in his administration, J.P. Morgan Chase Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon. Any speculation that he could be picked as Treasury Secretary. Maria.
All right, Madeline, thank you. Madeline Rivera, a lot to unpack there. Joe, your reaction to these new picks?
Well, look, I mean, the one thing that really unites all Trump supporters and sort of the undercurrent of the campaign has always been that people who like Donald Trump want a change agent in government. When you look at someone like RFK, there is no doubt, no question that this person will change fundamentally the way we view health and nutrition in the United States of America. And look, I think a lot of us out there, maybe we took a vacation in another country. We're always wondering why food is fresher, why it doesn't have additives, preservatives, etc. And then on the vaccine issue, you know, the reason why there's vaccine skepticism is because the people in government in the last administration and governors throughout the country told us things that were materially false about the COVID vaccine, which, again, was the biggest news story in this decade. I mean, so if there is skepticism, if there is, you know, a reason for RFK, it is because the industries themselves, both nutrition and vaccines, have caused there to be skepticism amongst people who, by the way, voted for Donald Trump to do just this.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a mixed reaction, I think, in the Senate because of that reason. In the past, his anti-vaxxing comments, he says he's not an anti-vaxxer right now, but that will cause some consternation in the Senate. We'll see about that. Doug Collins, great to see Doug Collins getting a role. He's going to do a great job. And then I love this whole J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon thing. Cheryl, you have to believe that they had conversations and something. I mean, why would Trump come out and say I'm not inviting him into the cabinet if there wasn't something there? But we'll see. I mean, now it looks like it's a horse race down to Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent. And I'm told that the announcement will be next week.
Yeah, no, I think, and you've had Scott Bessent multiple times on this program. I think Scott Bessent is an amazing choice. I know Howard Lutnick as well. I've known Howard Lutnick as well for 18 years. But at the same time, you know, Treasury, I'd rather have good choices versus bad choices for Treasury because certainly there's a lot that needs to be fixed there. You know, as far as the RFK story, you know, there has been, you know, if you look at the relationships between big pharma companies and if you look at their relationships with the FDA, look, there's a lot to discuss there. I know you're going to get to that in a second, Maria. But also, too, you know, I have to say congratulations, Doug Collins. Thrilled for Doug Collins. No one is more committed to veterans care, veterans issues, their plight than Doug Collins. Thrilled for him. And I also want to say, even Kimberly Strassel points out in the Journal, there's all this talk about some of these controversial nominees, and certainly Gaetz is one of those. But Kimberly Strassel says, look about Elise Stefanik, no-nonsense New York Congresswoman, Tom Homan, who obviously is great for that position as well because because the border is his passion. He's coming out of retirement. So there's going to be a lot of noise from the left. But let's look at the really good choices so far from this president-elect, Maria.
Definitely a mixed reaction to this group. I'm going to take a look at vaccine maker stocks this morning. Rebecca, the stocks plummeting after Trump nominated RFK Jr. for this HHS secretary role. RFK has said that he is not an anti-vaxxer in the past. Here's what he said. Watch this.
You have been a crusader on questioning vaccines. Are there specific vaccines that you would seek to take off the market?
Oh, I'm not going to take away anybody's vaccines. I've never been anti-vaccine.
You will not take any vaccine that is currently on the market.
I'm not. If vaccines are working for somebody, I'm not going to take them away. People ought to have a choice, and that choice ought to be informed by the best information.
Rebecca, your reaction.
Yeah, Maria, so I would just say RFK is a preeminent litigator that understands the science. That's what he's been doing for years. And we had a problem when we got the vaccine immunity. So these vaccine manufacturers got immunity under Reagan in the late 80s. And that has been taken to the extreme such that when we actually had coronavirus in 2020, you had the FDA approving stuff that wasn't actually going through full human trials. And we're seeing that again with the monkeypox vaccine. So I think this is the absolute right time. And Congress is even talking about potentially getting away with that immunity from the Reagan years. So this is going to be game-changing for these vaccine manufacturers.
All right, we will slip in a short break and then come right back at it. We are just getting started this morning. Quick break, and then markets are pulling back. Investors keeping an eye on the Fed as now Powell is saying he's in no rush to cut further. The October retail sales number coming out this morning. Mahoney Asset Management CEO.
This President-elect Donald Trump is speaking out against New York Governor Kathy Hochul's proposed revival of congestion pricing for drivers in the Big Apple. The Democratic governor wants a toll of $9 per day through certain parts of the city, less than the earlier proposal of $15, which you may remember was paused indefinitely in June. In an election year, a statewide Siena College poll finding 45% of residents here supported the pause. And then in August, another poll found 59% of New Yorkers said, hey, scrap the plan entirely. So Trump told the New York Post, quote, I have great respect for the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul. Look forward to working with her to make New York and America great again. But I strongly disagree with the decision on the congestion tax. It's going to hurt workers, families, and businesses, but in particular, anything to do with jobs. It's the most regressive tax known to womankind. Mic drop Donald Trump. Maria, congestion pricing is not popular, and many say in this city it will hurt the middle and lower classes of New York.
Yeah, it's not popular. It's going to be expensive. And then there's the fact that she tried to lie about it. I mean, give me a break. She puts it on pause because of the election. She knew that, you know, people in New York didn't want it. So she says it's paused indefinitely. As soon as the election is over, it's back, Joe. Come on.
There is a reason why the public hates and distrusts politicians more than polyester suit wearing used car salesmen. And now Kathy Hochul paints that picture. She's a darn Rembrandt of that picture. I mean, you pointed it out clearly. I mean, she did the bait and switch. She pulled an unpopular policy right before an election, said it's indefinitely paused, not going to happen. And then literally a week after the vote was counted, she came out and said, no, we're going to actually do it back. This is the kind of thing that ruins America's trust in elected officials. Had she just implemented the policy, yeah, it would have hurt. But at least she would have been honest with the people of New York. This is dishonesty and the height of hypocrisy. And it's unfortunate that the victims of this will be middle class, out of borough, suburban, working families who $9 a day is actually going to matter to.
Wow, it's $9 a day is expensive. And not only that, but Rebecca, I mean, look, they are out of money. They are looking under every rock for money because they've been sending all the money to the illegal migrants in New York.
It's the thing. It reminds me, Maria, of how they basically were saying, "Oh, come to our state. We're a sanctuary state. New York City being the largest." And as soon as the election is over, announcement: we're not actually going to cover your hotel and give you a food voucher and do all these things anymore. Because let's be honest, no city in America, I don't care how big you are, can afford it. They all are going back to the federal government and saying, "Where's our funding for the migrants?" And it's not there. And obviously, under the Trump administration, it won't be there even more.
Yeah. All right. We will keep watching it. Thank you. Let's get a look at your weather forecast right now. The weather across the America. Meteorologist Marissa Torres now with an update. Marissa.
Hey, Maria, good morning. We made it to Friday. That's always a reason to celebrate, right? And you look across the country, west to east, you are hard pressed to find a drop of rain or even a flake of snow. Now, we do have some snow for today in the northern Rockies and through Intermountain West, so we'll have a little bit of that to work with, drying out for the West Coast, and generally above average temperatures for much of the country. Denver 53, St. Louis 60. We have Dallas right at 72. You take it into the northeast, we continue to be dry, also breezy and through the weekend, so elevated fire concerns, and that's something we'll be dealing with much of the major I-95 cities from Philadelphia into Boston, and then in through the North Carolina coast, Virginia coast, the Outer Banks. They'll be dealing with maybe some coastal flooding and also some rain this morning. All right, let's go ahead and take it into Fox Weather, the flashback trivia question. We have this one for you. In 2022, a historic lake effect snowstorm dumped feet of snow in parts of New York. What was the maximum amount of snow that fell in the Buffalo suburbs? Here are your choices. Was it 25 inches, choice B 30, choice C 50 inches, or D 81 inches? We're going to have the answer for you coming up in the next hour. Maria?
All right, Marissa, we'll wait for that. Thank you, Marissa Torres. Catch Fox Weather First, simulcast live on Fox Business every weekday from 5 to 6 a.m. Eastern, right before Mornings with Maria. Stay with us. You're watching Mornings with Maria live on Fox Business. We've got a big hour ahead next.
And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand when everything's made to be broken. I just want you to know I am.
Welcome back. Good Friday morning, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Barcher-Romo, and it is Friday, November 15th. It is 7 a.m. on the button on the East Coast. Time for the hot topic of the hour. It was another busy day in Washington as President-elect Donald Trump makes more key cabinet appointments. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera is live at the White House this morning with all the details. Madeline.
Hi, good morning, Maria. Well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s nomination as Health and Human Services Secretary should come as no surprise. There were reports during the campaign trail that he could play a role in the Trump administration if he endorsed the former president, now, of course, the president-elect.
If you like health and if you like people that live a long time, it's the most important position. RFK Jr., Bobby. And I just looked at the news reports. People like you, Bobby. Don't get too popular, Bobby. We want you to come up with things and ideas and what you've been talking about for a long time. And I think you're going to do some unbelievable things.
Kennedy's priorities include overhauling food production to ban pesticides and genetically modified organisms, cracking down on food chemicals, and re-examining vaccine approvals. Several public health officials have raised alarm about his vaccine skepticism, views which are likely to be scrutinized during the confirmation process. President-elect Trump also picked former Georgia Congressman Doug Collins as Secretary of Veterans Affairs, his defense lawyer Todd Blanche as Deputy Attorney General, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum as Interior Secretary. A formal announcement for Burgum is expected today. Some of Trump's choices, though, like Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, might face roadblocks in the Senate. Incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune said this when asked about the possibility of using recess appointments to bypass Senate approval for nominees.
I hate to say yes or no because I think that's still an open question. My view is we want to do this the regular way and give the Democrats a chance to work with us on getting people in place.
There is one person who Trump says won't be playing a role in his administration. J.P. Morgan Chase Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon ending speculation that he could potentially be picked as Treasury Secretary. Maria.
All right, Madeline, thank you. Madeline Rivera at the White House. You know, interesting. We're probably going to see the rest of these names coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm understanding that the Treasury Secretary will be announced next week. Joe, your reaction to what we know so far?
Look, if the next series of appointments goes as well as the first series of appointments, I am even more excited for the Trump administration than I was on Election Day. You know, you look at someone like Elise Stefanik and how she handled those Harvard presidents. She took on anti-Semitism in some of the most ingrained institutions in the United States. Now you're going to put her in basically a legislative body that involves high-stakes drama, and I am 100% confident that she will be one of the most consequential influential UN ambassadors we ever have seen in the United States of America. Then you have Lee Zeldin. I'll give you a secret. The first text I sent Lee Zeldin after I heard of his appointment was a picture of Javier Milei with the chainsaw, because I think Lee Zeldin is going to be there to take and pull back some irresponsible regulations that have hampered our development as a country. And then you have RFK. I am a fan of RFK Jr. I am someone who has skepticism of the FDA in food, in vaccines, and I think he is the change agent that the people elected when they elected Donald Trump. They wanted people like that.
Yeah, there's some great names here. Don't forget Mike Huckabee, ambassador to Israel. That's going to be something to watch. Mike Huckabee, I'm sure, will do a great job. But you know, it's interesting, Rebecca, Trump has nominated 3 House members. That's Matt Gaetz, that's Lee Stefanik, and
Waltz.
And Michael Waltz, exactly. And if confirmed, the House will drop to a single-seat majority pending the special elections.
Yeah,
so they're going to be watching that as well. They've got the majority. So
that's definitely a problem, Maria. And we definitely need to get Trump's agenda through. He needs that mandate, and he needs both houses fully behind him. But I want to say, Maria, I think that what he's done here by creating the Department of Government and Efficiency with Elon and Vivek, with appointing Tulsi into intelligence when she's been so critical and on that no-fly list herself, all of these things, he is sending a clear message to the world that he is disrupting the power structures that have been ingrained in our country for many, many years. And this is necessary, but it will be very disruptive. And so people, the American public, need to be prepared for pushback and a lot of consternation. This is going to be a rocky go, but very, very necessary.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how the confirmation processes work, Charles. There are certain staff that do not need Senate confirmation. Oh, there's Sylvester Stallone with Donald Trump yesterday in Palm Beach. Your reaction?
Well, I mean, looking through all of this, you and I have talked about the rise in cancer in this country, right? And I want to go back to RFK Jr. for a second, because why are so many young people, Maria, getting colon cancer? And let me give you a statistic. There's a 15% increase in colon cancer diagnosis in people between the ages of 18 and 50 since 2004. Why? I think it's the food. And a lot of doctors have talked about this, the heavily processed, foods that people are consuming, and the chemicals in food. RFK Jr. wants to talk about that. So I think the food companies should be on notice right now. Why does American kids eat Fruit Loops that are full of dye, and then Canadian kids eat the same Fruit Loops from the same company without the dye? Because Canada has that rule and we don't. So all the additives, the preservatives, all those things in our food supplies, I'm really interested to see how RFK Jr. addresses this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We'll see about that. All right, we are just getting started this hour. A quick break, and then markets are on the move this morning after Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell said there's no rush to cut interest rates. Investors are looking ahead to the December Fed meeting now. The word on Wall. Welcome back. It's time now for the word on Wall Street. Top investors watching your money. Joining me now is former Gartman letter editor and University of Akron Endowment Fund chairman Dennis Gartman. Also with us is Rebecca Walser this morning. Dennis, thank you for joining the conversation. Good to see you. I want to get your take on the Fed and rates this morning, because take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield. We're sitting at 4.4%. Also want to look at gold, which, of course, you have been holding and telling us to hold as well. Nice call on gold there, Dennis. Gold price is at $25.71, down just a fraction this morning. Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell speaking in Dallas yesterday, telling business leaders that the central bank is in no rush to cut interest rates. Watch this.
The economy is not sending any signals that we need to be in a hurry to lower rates. The strength we're currently seeing in the economy gives us the ability to approach our decisions carefully. Ultimately, the path of the policy rate will depend on how the incoming data and the economic outlook evolve.
The futures market now pricing in a 62% chance the Fed will cut rates by 25 basis points next month. Dennis, what's your reaction?
I thought it was a rather strange comment that he made, and very unusual. At the start of the year, the consensus was that there'd be 5 to 6 cuts in the overnight Fed funds rate. I found that laughable and said that at most we'd have 1 or 2. I've had to revise that to say we'd have 2 or 3. But now the consensus is that we will not get, well, it's a 50-50 chance that we'll get a 25 basis point cut or no cut at the December meeting. So the fact that the Fed said that the economy is doing better than expected, he actually used the word stout. the economy is performing in a rather stout manner, probably puts off the propensity for the Fed to cut the overnight Fed funds rate one more time in December. So it's a little deleterious to share prices. They've had a huge run because of the election, and we're having a bit of a correction on the comments from Mr. Powell yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know what I think this is about, Dennis? I mean, President-elect Donald Trump has a growth strategy. For the first time in a long time, we've got the priority of growth. And this is not getting lost on Jay Powell. If you've got growth and you're about to see a pickup in growth, you don't want to be cutting interest rates into that.
That's what he commented yesterday, and I think that's a proper attitude to take. Wait and see what kind of numbers we get coming out. We've got industrial production, for example, coming out today. It was lower in September. It's probably going to be lower in October. And the problem also shall be that inventories will rise just a tad when that number is released later this morning. So there's a lot of data that has to come out between now and the December FOMC meeting. And I think Mr. Powell made a reasonable and judicious comment yesterday, saying the economy is doing quite well. It's being stout, and the Fed has the ability to delay and to take its time in acting. I think that was a wise decision on his part.
Well, one space that will certainly see an impact from the Trump presidency, Rebecca, is energy. President Trump has been talking about tapping into America's energy capacity. Oil prices this morning are lower. There are oversupply concerns and demand worries. The International Energy Agency forecasting global oil supply will exceed demand in 2025, even if cuts remain in place by OPEC+. So, I mean, they're worried about oil demand at a time that they're expecting the economy to grow. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If the economy is going to grow, you would expect oil demand to go up. But that's not what OPEC Plus is saying.
No, exactly, Maria. And, you know, there's obviously bullish price action since the Trump election, and we understand that because he's so pro-growth, and he will do it with our adversaries. And he does obviously consider China economically. I mean, obviously, as they're a partner, but they're also an adversary. They're, I think, you know, our biggest threat. But the thing is, Maria, if you've got two things going on. You have China, which is really in sort of this economic malaise where they're having to stimulate. They did just get retail sales and consumption up to an 8-month high, but they printed a lot and stimulate a lot to do that. And basically, we know that income is not staying up with actual retail production. So we expect if they don't continue to stimulate, that's going to look really bad again. Then we look at Germany, and you look at specifically like Volkswagen. They have never shuttered a plant in 87 years of history, and they're looking at shutting 1 out of 3 plants in Germany because manufacturing is in a crisis mode in Germany. So you've got global demand weakening, which is definitely forecasted in oil. Right now, 68 something a barrel. If we see that come down to 64, then I think that's the benchmark that we cannot pass through, Maria. If we do see that go through the 64 level, we could be somewhere in the $51 to $54 a barrel range, even while we have this pro-growth economic administration incoming.
Well, President-elect Trump has ruled out a position in his administration for J.P. Morgan Chase Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon. He wrote this on Truth Social: I respect Jamie Dimon greatly, but he will not be invited to be part of the Trump administration. Dimon immediately responded to Trump at the APEC meeting. He's at the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation CEO Summit in Peru. And he writes this: I wish the president well and thank you. It's a very nice note, but I just want to tell the president also I haven't had a boss in 25 years, and I'm not about ready to start. Rebecca.
That's one of the reasons you to be the top CEO at one of the largest banks in the world. I love it. I think Dimon is probably one of the most truth tellers. Like, he's people have to really read between the lines, but he pretty much does give us some straight talk, whereas a lot of other CEOs will kind of obfuscate. So I wish that we could have him as Treasury Secretary, but it's not to be.
Well, he's the boss, right? Yeah. He's the boss. So,
that's right.
You know, Trump is the boss. Jamie's the boss. It's probably not enough room for two bosses, right? And you know, when I spoke with Jamie Dimon earlier in the year, we talked about politics a bit. He is clearly understanding that the policies in the Republican Party has actually been much better for business. Here's what he told me earlier in the year. Watch this.
You know, the problem with saying you're a Democrat or Republican is that people think you're going to give knee-jerk support to everything that those people believe. So I'm not. Well, I feel like I have a Democratic heart. I have much more of a Republican brain. And I think we need policies that actually work.
Republican brain, Dennis. What do you make of that?
I actually think that he's had a boss. He's had the shareholders of the company for a long period of time as his boss, and the shareholders are very happy with him at this point. So I think that his decision to not become the Treasury Secretary is a wise and decent decision for the shareholders of the bank. No question about that.
All right, we will leave it there. Dennis, good to see you. Thank you so much, Dennis Gartman. Rebecca, you were with us all morning long. We're grateful for that. Quick break, 18. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Friday, November 15th. It is 8:01 on the East Coast, and I hope you're having a great Friday morning. It is time for the hot topic of the hour. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, now accepting applications. And while the hours may be long, Elon Musk says it is crucial work to shrink government spending and waste. Fox Business's Hillary Vaughn live on Capitol Hill this morning with Washington's reaction. Hillary.
Good morning, Maria. Well, the Department of Government Efficiency says they've already heard from thousands of people who are interested in participating in this cost-cutting mission, saying, quote, "We don't need more part-time idea generators. We need super high IQ, small government revolutionaries willing to work 80-plus hours per week on unglamorous cost-cutting." The job is going to be tough. Right now, the U.S. is $36 trillion in debt. That's a big hole to dig out of. Jerome Powell saying the course that we are on is unsustainable.
The U.S. federal government budget is on an unsustainable path. We have a very large deficit at a time when we're at full employment, and I would just say we know that we're going to need to address that, and it's going to need to be done sooner or later, and sooner is better than later.
The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget cheering DOGE's mission, highlighting areas they think need to be targeted to root out waste, saying, quote, "Federal health care spending in particular is rife with overpayments and inefficiencies that offer the opportunity to substantially lower costs without meaningfully reducing quality or access to care. The drivers of the growth in primary spending are Social Security and federal health care programs, namely Medicare. But touching Medicare and Social Security is scaring some Democrats."
Elon Musk was putting forward numbers like $2 trillion in annual reductions in spending. Well, that means cuts to Social Security and Medicare. That's not a political statement. That's an arithmetic statement. And so if that's his intent, Democrats are going to fight hard to protect Social Security and Medicare and other earned benefits on behalf of the American people.
But getting rid of waste in Social Security and Medicare is going to be ultimately what saves it, because the two programs are expected to run out of money in over a decade. So if the government does nothing, it's going to run out of money anyway. Maria.
All right, Hillary, thank you. Hillary Vaughn, these are big issues. Joe, your reaction?
I mean, unglamorous cost-cutting sounds like something my wife and I do at Costco on the weekends. But really, but I think I might be one of the few people that actually have done this work here in New York City. And I got to be honest with Elon, it's going to be the things you don't expect that are driving up the costs. And I'll give you some examples. It wasn't union labor, and it wasn't contractors stealing that accounted for so much waste here in New York City. It was actually the soft cost. And the soft costs that were built into requirements that government bureaucrats placed on those contractors and on people performing services. It really was interesting to peel the onion back and just view, why cities, states, and the federal government require so many different silly rules that really generate no productivity, have no deliverable result on the final product, and only cost the contractor or the government agency doing the work more money. I think he's going to have a target-rich environment, and yes, he should find the right people to do this job, because it is going to be unglamorous to go through pay stubs and things like that at that granular level, which will paint the picture of why the federal government is wasting so much money. I wish him luck. We should all be praying for Elon Musk to succeed in this.
Yeah, and, part of the issue, Cheryl, is that certain lawmakers, when they are agreeing to programs, spending, they put their pet projects in there. I mean, the list that we have been reporting on the waste is insane.
We were talking about this, I believe, yesterday, Maria. We were talking about the island full of monkeys.
Right.
We were talking about all the DEI initiatives this week, all the money that has been completely, wasted. Look, the U.S. government spent $6.7 trillion in fiscal 2024. The DEI, the fraud, the waste in Medicare, money to prisoners, we talked about it. But look, this is important to the market, Maria, because, watch the bond market. That's what's really going to matter going forward, because even Jerome Powell has said this country's on an unsustainable path because of the very large deficit that we're facing. The bill has come due. And if it takes Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to get us out of this mess, fine. I do wish them luck. I do applaud them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of the issue is that, markets and investors react when they react, Rebecca. I mean, so far, $36 trillion in debt has not been a problem for markets. But when investors do start reacting and getting nervous about the ability to cut spending and pay back debt, markets could really spiral. So we haven't seen that, but you don't know if it will happen until it happens, and then it's too late.
It's absolutely too late. When we start to go into a debt spiral, Maria, we already have interest as our third highest expense. Social Security, Medicare, interest. If we do not get this under control, we will literally lose our reserve status and we won't be able to print money to actually pay the benefits that these people rely on. So I am tired of this third rail of politics that nobody can talk about. Let's be honest. These programs are going bankrupt at the amount of spending and the amount of funding. And if we do not fix this mathematical disparity, everything is going to change in this country. You're not going to continue to be able to export our inflation and have our reserve status as a currency. And that is a debt spiral we cannot afford to go into. So let's actually attack this. And I love how Elon Musk made the job sound so terrible and so boring, because those are the people that need to go into that job, not people that are looking for a paycheck, but patriots that are saying, I've got to rise above this and fix this problem.
Yeah, and that's the way he approached it with that post on X, for sure. We're just getting started this hour. Fell on Wall Street. We had a better than expected retail sales report come out this morning. Let's take a look at markets here. 30 minutes away from the open. The Dow Industrial's down 174. The Nasdaq at the lows of the morning down 201. And the S&P down 35. Remember, one of the issues here is the fact that the Fed said it's in no rush to continue cutting rates. Rebecca, your reaction?
Powell is pushing back. He doesn't want to have a third rate cut where the market reprices it back right up, and it's like he didn't even do it. So that's what's happening.
Final words, Cheryl Casoni.
All right. Well, I have to say, I'm really excited to see what Elon and Vivek come up with. We need to see less government waste and more fiscal responsibility in Washington. And today, Maria Bartiromo said y'all, and she delivered it fabulously. Good job, Maria.
I tried, Cheryl. I needed a lesson from you. Joe Borelli.
Best investment today, best odds. Mike Tyson on the long shot odds. Heard it here first. He's going to win. It's going to be spectacular.
Wow.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, we'll be watching that. Yeah, Cheryl, a kid from